What's up, everybody? We're back. Lane and Zane spitting and chatting, coming at you with another episode. Zane, how
Right.
you doing down there, man?
Hey man, I'm good. I'm having a good day, good week. I gotta say, this is probably my least favorite topic,
Yeah,
so you're gonna have to
yeah,
drag me through this a little bit, but I'm ready to get
yeah,
into it.
yeah. Well, I thought about with today's climate, and you hear a lot about, especially with all the political noise that's going on. You hear about right and left,
Mm,
the right. Like, what does that mean? How does that apply to me? What if I just want to live my life and just kind of do my thing for my family? How does that involve me?
mm,
And how did we get here? And I
mm,
see a lot where this kind of stuff separates people, it separates friends, it separates families, it makes it difficult for you to work with people if they have political views. And this is
mm.
new. Like, this wasn't like this. I mean, obviously, when we grew up, if somebody had different political views, you still were friends with them, or your
Yeah,
grandparents or your mom and dad still associated with them. But now it's like, if you this person doesn't believe this, you don't deal with them. Or if this person voted for this person, then you don't associate with them, or they're racist, or
yeah,
because this person wore this hat, then
right,
oh no, they stand out because they got a hat on. I mean, I don't
exactly.
know how we got here. I don't know if you've seen that stuff down where you live and how
Oh
it
yeah,
makes you feel, but how do we get here?
yeah, man. This is like I said, it's probably one of my least favorite topics, and it's really because everybody has an opinion, and you
Right.
should, right? We all have the right to have an opinion, but it's almost like it just turns into you should have the same opinion that I have, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where I have a problem with it
Mm.
because like you said, everyone should be able to still work together
Yeah.
without getting into an argument or debate about what you think, what you believe, who you voting for. And I know you mentioned like how do we get here? It's a long, sloppy history. But if
Mm.
people would really kind of dive into like how we really got here, you probably wouldn't vote for nobody. I mean,
Right.
that's the reality of it, to be honest with you. But and I'm not telling nobody not to vote. Like that's people's rights. There's certain things that I may like about certain candidates, and there's things about both candidates that just suck. Like,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's just the real deal. But yeah, let's get into it. As much as we can.
Yeah.
But this topic is probably gonna ruffle some feathers.
Yes. Yes.
So let's
Yeah.
do it.
And, we stand kind of, and I know you probably the same way where, hey, I don't like being attached to this. I don't like being attached to that. I'm kind of just thinking, and most people think like us, what's in the best interest of myself, my family,
Yep.
my home,
Yeah.
the future for my family and children. That's how the most people think.
Yeah.
But like you said, people are pulled where if you don't think this or if you don't say this, then we're going to cancel you or we're going to put you over here. And it's just like, man, like I can't have my own opinion or my own feelings, or it doesn't mean I don't like you or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of this happened a couple years ago with policing reform. And
Mhm.
that's always been a big issue. Since we were growing up, we were taught as young African American males how to deal with law enforcement. But
Mhm.
I mean, it may be an incident or two we growing up, but there was never no major, where we got beat by the police or something like that. Some things did happen to people we know, but
Right.
relatively we stayed out of that.
Mhm.
And I know in my home, my grandparents and my mother, hey, you respect authority like you would respect your teacher or respect us. But this just got taken a new way, a wave of its own. And a lot of it is because, a lot of the abuse we've seen on film from law enforcement.
Yeah.
And people have died because of that.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that those people who died, like, I don't care what you did, everybody deserves life and dignity.
Yeah.
Nobody should die over a traffic ticket, over a misdemeanor, or over anything.
Yeah.
But it's happened, and here we are, and saying this is an occupation. Police officers, hey, you applied for the job, you got it, you went through the background check. You weren't born a police officer.
Right.
Me and you were born black. We
Yeah.
didn't have no choice in that. But
Right.
I hear this term blue lives matter, and I was like, there ain't no blue people. What are you talking about? Like, that's a job. You get fired, you're no longer a cop. I don't know if you've heard that and how that made you feel, like hearing about like blue lives. Like, why do we have that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely heard it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people have flags and all kind of stuff. It's like
Right, right.
another flag that gets
Mm.
flown.
It's
And
always a flag, something going up over
yeah,
something. Always a
yeah,
flag.
I've seen that in some neighbors' garages or people driving
Right,
down the street with it on their trucks. And
right.
here's the thing: to each their own. Like
Yeah,
that's you, do you. But again, when it's something that's pushed on somebody else,
right.
we have to bow down to a certain ideology or what may be important to you. That's where I have an issue with it, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
with that's not just that situation.
Right.
That's just with anything that is related to like politics, and politics is in everything. It's in work, it's in
Yeah,
schools, it's
yeah.
religion, right? It's in everything. Of course, the government. So it's just the problem I have is when we cross the line of like all these are jobs that are supposed to serve the people. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
when it becomes the power tripping, and now I gotta say or believe or act the way that you think I should, just because of your beliefs or your new law that you want to
Right.
make, that's where I have a conflict. Because for me, I have my own personal beliefs, and
Yeah.
if I'm just being straightforward, I believe in God. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to have or worship another man's opinion or have some other authority over me
That's right.
other than the creator. So if this term, this president believes that a person can be called them, in the next term we're gonna go back to, okay, what's your birth certificate say? Well, I'm just gonna stick with what I know is right. You know
Right.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
I just don't want to be like pressured or
Yeah.
influenced or your job's on the line because you didn't say this or that. Like that's where I have a problem,
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. And I think a majority of people feel like that is like, the pressure to say this or to believe this. And
Hmm.
people just got fed up with it. Like, look, I feel this way. I just want to do my thing. You do your thing. I don't have a problem with it, but
Right.
let me be me. And
Exactly.
I think that's kind of the missing, thought that a lot of people forget. This group of people who want to live their life, let them live their lives. You don't have to put your lifestyle or your thoughts or who you are on them and make them, this is how you're going to have to live your life from now on. Like, hold up,
Yeah.
this is America, right? And
Yeah.
speaking of policing, I mean, there came this thing, this topic, defund the police. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw that movie, The Purge, or those
Hmm.
movies where like
Yeah.
there's no laws for like 24 hours or a couple of days. Like, that's
Yep.
probably what it would look like. Like,
Man.
all we said basically was, hey, don't shoot us in the back for jaywalking, or,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's all we said. We never said defund the police, but because people took it and went way to the other side with it,
Right.
and the minority community, most people will tell you, like, no, we didn't say that. We defund the police. Like, you don't want cops? You need police, you need law enforcement. Like, that's needed.
Right.
Let's
Right.
just be fair about it.
Right.
But then again, I remember back in the day they used to have school police when we were in high school. I
Yeah.
didn't know that some of them had like grenade launchers and machine guns. Like, okay, why does a school police need that?
Dang.
But there's some things that needed to be adjusted, and they've done that with body cameras and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But some of the stuff still goes on, but it's an occupation, it's a job.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
Go fill out the
Yeah.
application. You're not born a police officer. I know there are some majority of police officers are great people. They're great. We're talking about just a few knuckleheads out there that spoil everything for everybody else. And that's a lot of people live like that. Like, you're good, you're doing your job, but you got some bad apples. It's what it
Exactly.
is.
Exactly.
Another topic came to mind, and I know you've heard this: affirmative action / DEI.
Mm-hmm.
Like, should you get a job because of your race, regardless of your skills? Well, in theory, no. Everybody should be treated on a level playing field. That's all, as a minorities we've ever wanted. Hey, give the job to the best qualified person. But,
Mm-hmm.
it's like we had to get there because things weren't so even. It was like, hey, I got my buddy or I got this guy who looks like me. I'm going to give him the job. Well, that's not fair either. But
Mm-hmm.
is it right to say, this group of people, they've been held back. Let's give them some jobs. Let's do this, and that got taken away. Maybe because things just went way to the left somewhat. I don't know. Have you seen that in the news or seen that in your industry?
I've seen it definitely in the news,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that I've experienced it in the past. When you're applying for jobs, and you see different those boxes you got to check, and as we all do. And it's, I mean, the unfortunate part is that that law had to be even put into place, right? Because it wasn't balanced,
Yeah.
because it was segregation going on, and we know that there's stuff like that still happening today. They might, the people that's doing it are just getting more creative, on how they hide it, or how
Mm.
they do their hiring practices. And so they just probably keep moving the ball around. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, I've definitely seen it in the news, and how that the new, I guess, president is taking out
Mm-hmm.
DEI, and some of it I see kind of both sides of it. Some of it was
Yeah.
being abused for not just like, the original, I guess, reasoning behind it, which was for African Americans, quote unquote. But we know that there are other groups that have now become a part of this, particular piece. So with that said, I just think that it's been, like you said, there's a left and there's a right, and there's always the far left and there's always the far right. And
Right.
that's where things, I think, just get blown out of proportion. And it just turns into like these gangs. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Red and
So now,
blue. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like, this is the new like thing where, okay, we were just extreme in one scenario in the last
Yeah.
presidency, right? Where it's all willy nilly, do whatever you want. Now the new president's like, man, we wiping all that mess out. We ain't doing none of
Right.
it. So it's
Right.
just, but it's got to be a balance. It's, the truth and everything is somewhere like in the middle. It ain't
In the
like on
middle.
either side. You know what I
Nah.
mean?
Yeah.
It ain't on like the far left. It ain't on the far right. So I think that's the thing that's most frustrating, when you see people just flocking to choose sides, and that just shows the condition of the country. Like, if you just
Yeah.
have a bunch of followers, and you feel like you need to be a part of something and claim this and claim that, well, I mean, what's different than gang life?
Yeah.
It's really to see something like you lacking. If you just feel like you have to like vote this way, or you feel like, my job is the only thing in life that exists, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Then you're lacking in other areas.
Mm.
I'm not saying
Man.
those things are not important, because we all have
Right.
careers, you know what I mean? We all should want to be excellent at what we do, and we build great
Right.
communities at work. So don't take that the wrong way. I'm just saying, when you make it so extreme to where that becomes like your religion,
Mm.
then you've gone a little too far.
Yeah, man, that's a good point, man. That's a good point. When politics just surrounds your life and every day how you move, how you talk, who you hang
Yeah.
around with, man, that's a good point. Like, and I've always thought, like, man, down the middle is kind of where that's all we ever asked for, especially from coming from our community. Hey, that's all we ever asked for was a fair shake. Give us the job based upon our skills, experience,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, okay, we're going to get rid of DEI and just make, the person who has the best skills is going to be based upon, as they say, merit. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we asked for.
Yeah.
But
If
will
that's
that
the
happen?
truth, right?
Yes. Yes.
If that's the pure truth of it,
Yeah.
then that's cool.
Yeah.
But I think most of us are kind of questioning that. Is that really
Yeah.
happening? So.
Yeah, and okay, you say it, we'll give you a chance, but when you
Mhm.
look at the demographics for years at a company and see how many, this particular group of people working there versus this one, then you'll know, okay, you guys are back to your old ways again, and
Yeah.
we got to fix that again. But we'll see, to be continued on that.
Right.
Man, when I first started hearing the word woke culture, I kind of defined it as Caucasian Americans when they saw like what happened to George Floyd, putting
Hmm.
his knee on his neck, man dies, and they heard about police abuse and people dying, but for many of them, especially the younger white population, that was their first time seeing something like that. They may have heard it,
Yeah.
from other African Americans who spoke about it, but actually seeing it and seeing how easy it was for that man to put his knee on his neck and that man die,
Hmm.
that's where woke culture came, and they woke up to see, hey, this is what we're talking about. See how this happened. And
Hmm.
they saw that, they took it, and then it went off into other things, being woke about this, being woke about that. It's like, hold up, we're
Yeah.
talking first about police abuse.
Right.
Hey, if we deserve to get a ticket or we deserve to go to jail, so be it.
Right.
That's the law.
Right.
We shouldn't have to die because of that. And they saw it. Laws changed. Penalties became harsher. But then it took on a whole new life of its own.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about the whole woke, I guess, movement or culture, as you can see, like terms and stuff, they shift over the years, right? Like
Mm,
back in the day, you might have had, from our culture, like music and like rap and stuff.
yeah.
Being woke was more if you had like insight. You know what I mean? You had
Yeah.
an understanding of like different history, so you wasn't like kind of under the influence of like mainstream stuff. Like you were kind
Right.
of woke to like truth, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this just has it's like a duality. Like they'll take a term and then spin it all around and have everybody
Yeah.
just like in la la land. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Now we're
Yeah.
making laws and changing things where a person is scared to just speak up on like truth, like real history that's actually happened is documented. I don't care what
Right.
continent you go to. Slavery happened.
Yeah.
Well, you can't like erase it. You know what I mean? So, right now they're trying to take stuff out of the African Museum, I think in Washington
Right.
D.C.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? Why are we trying to erase something that we know happened,
Right.
right? Are we doing that in other museums? Are we
No.
taking out stuff that's trying to hide like part of this country's history? So I think it's just that's kind of the frustrating part about, again, if you're too far left, too far right, and then when you get in power, right, to make a law, or put something in place, and then you rallying all the people that's part of your gang, so to speak. It's just a recipe for internal wars. It's a
Yeah.
recipe for just unnecessary debates and friction just between the common people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
am I arguing with you about who you like as a president or what
Yeah.
policy is in place? Like, you should have an opinion, I should have an opinion, and we should still be able to eat, break bread
Yeah.
without slapping each other.
Yeah. 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 No, man, you made a good point about that, especially with like the museums. Uh, People, young kids, young black kids, young white kids, Hispanics, Indian, Jewish kids should learn about the history with this country, with African Americans, and it started with slavery.
Yeah.
And they should learn that to see, hey, there's some ties to why some African American communities are struggling to this day, and how that's tied to that. And then it came into Jim Crow, and in the late early 80s, the crack epidemic hit. I mean, we
Yeah.
seen that, what I'm saying, how that hurt certain communities of people who look like us. And still recovering from that, the over policing, the sentencing and stuff like that. But to take those museums away, man, we want to learn about our ancestors too. And then I've been to that museum. It is
Mm.
life changing.
Mm.
It's life changing. It's not all about slavery. It's
Yeah.
a museum. It talks about our history and sports and entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about slavery. There's a big component, a couple of floors that talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
It also goes into Jim Crow,
Mm-hmm.
the story about Emmett Till. It's life changing. I think if it doesn't get closed down, everybody should make some sort of trip to go see that museum if they can.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's still there next year. I don't know, but it may get canceled. I don't know. So we'll see. To be continued.
Man, well, I hope
To
I
be
can make it.
continued.
I hope I
Yeah,
can make it. My family's been there, and they were like, it's awesome, you know. And
yeah,
it might
yeah.
take a few days to even go through it. They said it's so big.
Man, we got there, and towards the end we were kind of double timing because it was like, hey, it's gonna close about an hour, so we had to kind
Hmm.
of go see some of the other exhibits.
Yeah.
But when I went to Washington, I went and saw all of our country's history.
Yeah.
Not just the African American Museum. I went and
Right.
saw one of the presidents I've always admired was JFK. I went to his gravesite
Hmm.
at Arlington, and then
Hmm.
it made me realize how much of our input as African Americans is in our country's history.
Hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
man, that people really need to be educated about that. Like how much we fought for our country too.
Yep.
On one of the space shuttles that crashed coming in, there was African American pilot on there or an astronaut on there. We've
Hmm.
always been present in our country's history, and even if you go to Arlington, a lot of us, are buried there for historic reasons. But it's something that we need to look into. It's not all peachy, wonderful stuff, but our history and our input is documented.
Yeah, yeah, and we have a right, and this is for
Yeah,
everybody. Like
yeah,
everybody has a right to look at history and make their own kind of conclusions as well.
yeah,
Like learning from the information that's presented, the artifacts that's presented, and then being able to digest that. Everyone has
yeah.
the right to do that. To me, I love history, so I've been to several museums, not just across this country, but I remember going to Turkey on a trip one time, and
Hmm.
man, it's just amazing to see. No matter where you go, when they have museums, there's just amazing things that you'll see. Some
Right.
things are very very like you said, eye opening, and some
Yeah.
stuff could be shocking that you would learn. Other things are just fascinating and amazing. But I don't see why you would take away one particular people's pieces of history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because as a kid, like it was a field trip to the
Hmm.
Holocaust Museum in LA.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, we went on a field trip to that. So I'm sure they're not taking away stuff from that museum. You know what I
No.
mean? Or any other museum. It's just,
And that was mind blowing for us because we
that was
didn't
mind blowing.
know the
Right.
experiences that
Exactly.
the Jewish community had during that time. We've heard of the Holocaust, but when we
Right.
went to that museum, my
Yeah.
jaw dropped. Like, wow.
Man, I wouldn't have never had the clearer picture that those people went through at that
Right.
time if I wouldn't have went to that museum. That's like real history.
Right.
So I guess we're just saying is, treat everyone the same. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Absolutely.
And that should always be considered. One person with power shouldn't have the ability to just take away someone's, history that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Man, another thing that is talked about, and I understand it, and you cannot go anywhere without hearing this, especially in the news recently. There was another mass shooting in Minneapolis. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
two children died, and I think they were praying, from what I heard. I mean,
This is bad, man.
that broke my heart to hear that. And gun control is a topic.
Yep.
Let's just be honest. And our country's history is surrounded with gun control.
Hmm.
We fought wars, we've won freedom with
Hmm.
firearms. Does that mean that every 18-year-old who hits age needs a fully automatic weapon with magazines galore? I don't know. But you could send him to the country to fight for the country. That's something to be thought of. But gun control is a topic today. I do believe in the right to bear arms, to protect yourself, to protect your family. But I also believe that, you should be responsible for that. You should be a responsible person. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need machine guns to defend my family. But that's
Right.
just me.
Right.
That's just me. Some person may just need like a little pistol 22. That's their right.
Right.
I don't need a bazooka. I don't need a rocket launcher. But
Right.
people take those freedoms and, like you said, they abuse it. And here we are today, where kids are getting massacred in school. I
Right.
mean, I mean, our children go to school. I mean, that's a call you do not want to get. And these schools train kids now. They're supposed to
Hmm.
be going to learn math, spelling, and they also have to learn how to deal with a shooting at their campus. We didn't have to do that. We just had the earthquake drill, I think, because we knew at some point there could be an earthquake.
Hmm.
Now they have to deal with earthquakes and mass shootings.
And it's sad what our kids are going through today. The
Yeah.
fact that they have to walk through metal detectors, get their bags checked. You know what I'm saying? You can't just walk up into a school as a parent. You know what I mean? You got to
Mm,
be buzzed in, or you got to be checked
yeah.
in, different things. You're not just walking around there. Back to what you said about just what the kids are going through is just so much. And when we talk about the gun control, like, I mean, yeah, I believe in our right as well. Like, all of our rights, we should all have the right to bear arms. That's a natural way of protecting yourself, your family, and your home. But like you said, it always comes down to the extreme cases. And
Right.
should we make everyone, which is millions and millions of people, lose their right to protect themselves from the 5 people that are doing the things that we're seeing in the news?
Right. Right.
It's just kind of common sense. I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, the answer is no. Like, we need to be able to protect ourselves from those few.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because we're always going to have those few. Now, it does feel like it's definitely increasing. We're seeing like shootings like all the time.
Man.
Now, my question is, do you think that's because we have more social media? Is it because we have more news coverage? What's your thoughts on that? Or is it just
Uh,
it's just happening more, period?
Man, as far as the mass shooting thing, I think that it's a little bit of the gun law thing, but I also think that's a mental health issue for somebody to take a gun, or if they don't take a gun, if they don't have access to a gun, guess what? They'll drive a car through, and you've heard of that, and plow
Hmm.
through a gang of people.
Yeah.
That's a mental health thing. But it does happen with guns, and we have to kind of get our kids help. Like, parents should be parenting their children. Look through invade their privacy.
Yeah.
You're a child in your parents' home, you don't have no privacy. If I want to go through your drawers and your books, yeah, I'm going to do that to make sure you're not going to be on the news doing something to somebody. But
Yeah.
parents are so just kind of, I understand they got to work and take care of things. Next thing you know, their son is on the news doing something crazy. And social
Yeah.
media does play into that, and somehow these kids, because their minds are fully developed, they don't understand reality. They will go and act on this stuff and do certain things because they are hurt inside. But that affects the kids who just want to go to school to learn. I mean,
Hmm.
they got to do the drills. They sell bulletproof backpacks.
What?
Bulletproof backpacks. That's
Hmm.
something to consider.
That's sad. That's sad. We got to consider it.
You it's sad you got to consider that. It is. Or maybe having, I don't agree that teachers should be armed because kids will talk back and the teacher will have a bad day,
Hmm.
lights out. You don't want that. Maybe a nurse or the principal or assistant principal or something like that, somebody who's not interacting with children, because we're too far past that.
Yeah.
There are people going up on the campuses because they're soft targets. They know that there's no security there and they're going to go massacre kids. Or if it's not a school, it's somewhere else, but it's a soft target.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to think about today. And you can't just lax and say, oh, it'll never happen to me. Those people thought that too. They're at a private school.
Man, that's sad. That's
It's
sad.
unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Condolences to those families too, man.
Absolutely.
That's
I
awful.
mean, their lives are forever changing. I mean, you lose a child in that way, and it's man,
Yeah.
your life is never the same, and something needs to be done. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Something needs to be done. Rather, you have security at all the schools in our country, because we can do it, because we can pay for all kind of stuff and send money to these countries. But you mean you can't put an armed security guard at every school in the country?
Right.
Or
Talking about budget.
somebody give somebody some training
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
prevent these massacres. Come
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
let's
You're
let's
right.
think about that.
You're right.
Another hot topic, man, and we just gotta say it. immigration. We both grew up in Southern California. We knew people always came here, but we knew they came here to get a better life. And I understand why, if you put yourself in their shoes, you'd understand why you'd want to come here. I do. Is it the law? No. Do they break the law? You could say that, yeah. But you put yourself in their shoes, man, to get a better life, to feed their family, to make some money. I understand it. I understand it. But then also, it's the law. You can't dispute that. There is a way to go about coming into this country. And there's a lot of people who've came to the country the right way who they feel like everybody should do that. And they're a little, no matter what race they are, even if they may see people who look like them being drugged off by ICE, they're applauding that because they came and did things the right way. And I'm like, man, they're still people though. It's like, that's just how I view it. I
Yeah.
have compassion for those people, but on the flip
Yeah.
side, there's been criminals who've came here who've killed innocent people who shouldn't have been here.
Right.
And those bad apples spoiled the bunch because, hey, if you would have got rid of them a couple of years ago, the people who just want to come here and work and make a living for their family may have some easier access as opposed to being drugged out and sent back.
Right. Yeah. We know that this topic is a hot one right now for
Yeah.
sure. And I think it really comes down to the leadership just is it's just sad because it's when you go from one extreme again to the other.
Yeah.
So one administration is just very lax and
Yeah.
doesn't, hold the borders probably as best as they should, right? And then they're just really lax on just,
Yeah.
letting anybody in, not really taking care of the border. Then you got the extreme of where we're gonna put
Right.
a whole wall up,
Hmm.
military, everything, and basically no excuse. If you didn't do it this way, you gone. You and your family. Like,
Yep.
and again, that neither one of those is like the right way to do it from a
Right.
perspective of
Right.
just this is a human being, and because as a country we flip flop on how we're going to protect our borders and laws, and we're going to be loose now and then we're going to be tight now. It's I think the consistency is what damages the country in a sense. It's not
Yeah.
consistent. Think about it. You have
Yeah.
somebody's idea come in every 4 years, things get flip flop. And then you have all these supporters that just get dragged back and forth, what are we going to do? What new law are we
Yeah.
going to put in? How are we going to tackle this issue, that issue, policy, foreign policy? And it's unfortunate because the actual human being suffers.
Yeah.
Now, granted, if you're a criminal and that's what you like to do, then you don't need to
Yeah.
be here. You don't need to be
Right. Right.
anywhere. You know what
Right.
I mean? You don't need to be nobody's country.
Nobody's country.
If you just want to be a criminal and hurt
Right.
people, like you don't need to be nowhere. So I think most people with common sense would agree with that. But when we're talking
Yeah.
about families that have come over here and they done been here for years, and now all of a sudden we want to change policy, you're going back now. Like, I mean, come on, these people get it together on the policy front first. Stick to what that's going to be, and then you can start enforcing things. That's I guess that's the problem I have with the left and right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's things like that where it's not really about the people, so to speak. I feel like it's like a my balls are bigger than your balls. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna do a tug of war game. I'm gonna
Yeah.
show you. So that's my problem with it. It just seems like it's a big show of power on how we're gonna shame the last administration,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
That's
we're gonna
true.
we're gonna one up you now. Yeah,
And like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
rapists, but the
Right.
people school
Exactly.
and
Right.
but and
Yeah.
it be
Yeah.
this are
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and I don't you don't have
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. Yeah, man. This is that man, that goes back to it's just the extremes of
right.
everything. It's just the extremes with everything. And for me, I don't care what you do,
Yeah.
you know. Just like you don't care what I do.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? I think that's what it comes down to. We just need to get back to respecting people for them being people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't have to agree with what you do, and you don't have to agree with
Mm-mm.
what I do. So it's just let's just get back to that. That's what a human right is. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it's your ability to decide, make your own decisions for yourself, as long as you ain't hurting nobody. It shouldn't. that I don't agree with something, it shouldn't matter if you like my lifestyle or not. I ain't robbing you. I ain't taking nothing from you. I ain't calling you out your name. And I like you said, I just want the same respect. I
Yeah.
just want the same right. Anytime you try to put one group or over another, and I mean, all you're doing is you're segregating in another way. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what that was. It just seemed like things just got so far to that side to now it's just like, okay, if you just separated a whole bunch of other people, you know what I mean? So yeah, I know that again. I know that that's a hot topic, and
Yeah.
my point of view is I don't care. I have my own set of beliefs. You
Yeah.
know, I'm happily married, and I believe in my family values, and so that's what it is.
It just
Right.
mean that
Yeah.
isn't,
Yeah.
and
Yep. Yep. I mean, I guess that's one thing I've learned over the years, man, is that, and this is just based off my experience. Y'all can have your own opinion. My trust is not in no man because they're gonna fail us every time.
every time.
Every time we see somebody make all these promises and this is what I'm gonna do when I get in office. Well, we see how that goes. It always ends up not happening, and just
All the
ends up being
time.
a disappointment. And a lot of it just be straight up lies. If we're being honest, a lot
Yep.
of them get in there. They feed us a lot of like stuff we want to hear. But think about it. When is the last time you actually have experienced like a serious like tax break?
Mm.
Why do the elderly have to worry about Medicaid and Social
Right.
Security? Is it going to be there? Is it not? When they're taking it out of your check, you don't have a choice on that, but it could be gone. Like there's just stuff like that don't make sense. We struggle over health care. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Other countries offer their citizens free health care, free education. And we're scraping and scrapping just trying to make it, right? What about those things? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, if you start seeing those things put in place, then somebody's really doing something for the country. But all this other stuff, we just be going in circles. Next thing
It's
you
just
know,
noise.
we just in everybody else's country, everybody else's business.
Yeah.
Why are we
Yeah.
even over
Yeah.
there? Most of us don't even
Yeah.
know. We don't even know why we over in certain places right now, talking about them more than we talk about all the issues we have right here.
Don't
Right,
care what or
right.
what they
Yep,
all. We
that's what
may
I'm
have to
saying.
work your
Right.
order, please.
I sure hope not, but that's the
I hope not.
sad reality, like of a lot of people, even right now. But yeah,
Yeah.
Social Security always being threatened, right? But you pay into it, like you have no choice. What if I wanted to
Yeah.
say, look, I don't want to pay into that. I'd rather put it in a savings account. You don't have a choice to
Yeah.
do that. So
And so you
yeah,
get,
yeah.
and it's like,
Put it
yeah,
out there like that,
and
man,
person over,
man,
no,
man.
sad,
It is.
but
Yep.
kind of why.
That's right. That's right. So again, thanks for tuning in. Again, like Lane said, just leave your comments, and if you got some suggestions on topics that maybe you want to hear about, just get our thoughts on, so we can
Yeah.
get some more dialogue and more just engagement going on. Put it in the chat, please.
Yep.
We'd love to see that. But until then, we'll see you next week.